You start.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Harris.
I'm Steve McLean.
Sometimes, as I lay in bed at night, I imagine a world beyond these four walls. A world full of mystery and possibility.
I last sent a postcard to a friend of mine from Germany.
I sent a postcard to my girlfriend when I was in America last year.
I wanted to do a film about Soho, but I don't think it's plot-driven. I think it's more fleeting moments in this young guy's life and his discovery of Soho. I wanted to try to capture Soho as it used to be before gentrification, but I also wanted the film to be not set in a specific era. I just wanted it to be a sort of Soho of the imagination, I guess, a dream Soho. And I wanted to people it with characters who discover Soho for the first time like I did in the late 70s, early 80s. It's almost like a love letter, I guess, to a lost part of London, really, which doesn't exist anymore. It's very, very stylized. It's all shot in a studio. It's like a dream, a kind of memory of this place that I kind of remember. I kind of feel like the Soho of Francis Bacon, of the 50s, of the 60s, was very similar to, Soho of the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, actually. Didn't really change that much, during, sort of 30, 40 years. And then now suddenly it's been completely transformed. So I just remember it being this kind of exciting place to be, slightly dodgy place to be, which was, really cool, at that time, I guess. I was influenced by Fassbender, particularly Carell, in terms of the aesthetic of it. I was also really inspired by My Own Private Idaho, Gus Van Sant's film. In terms of the writing and the script, I was inspired by the artists that feature, whether it's Francis Bacon or Caravaggio. My love of their work inspired the writing and drove the script, I think. By Jarman, I guess Derek Jarman, he was really inspiring, and that low-budget aesthetic where, not having much money to make a film is not considered to be a barrier to, being really creative and being really inventive. And I found that part of his work really inspiring, actually. The inspiration was to try to find someone who combines a sort of innocence, but also can kind of grow as the film goes on. Harris was wonderful in it. As soon as he read for us, we were pretty captivated. And so we took it from there. He was one of the guys that really jumped out at us, with his self-tape.
Yeah, I think I auditioned a couple of times. I remember it being the first audition I'd been to where I didn't feel like I was at a job interview. Steve just, he was stood up and he was sitting next to me and he was reading with me and he just freed me up because obviously I was nervous.
The people that we eventually cast seemed to really fit and seemed to really gel. They had fun with the material, which was really important to me. We were lucky we got the people that we wanted. It just took a while to find them.
It's more beautiful than I ever imagined.
Stendhal Syndrome is a condition where people who look at too much art or sensitive to it become slightly deranged. It was discovered in the 60s, so it might have a lot to do with drugs, actually. I mean, I'm not quite sure, but I just thought it would be really interesting to use that in a film which is essentially about art and a young man's discovery of art, that he actually suffered from a condition where he couldn't look at it.
Was Caravaggio such a bad boy, or was half of it just made up?
That's the beauty of it, I suppose.
I wanted the central character to be British in a sense, but all the other characters and the idea of Soho being this magnet for people, I just wanted the gang to be quite diverse.
The Raconteurs are a group of boys who specialise in post-coital conversation.
We'll start with Caravaggio, then work our way back to the ancients.
Art, poetry, literature. There's a lot to learn, and we don't have much time.
Yeah, but for now we stick to the basics.
It was important to me that the Rent Boys didn't represent something which was, bleak or depressing, or, it's essentially supposed to be playful, and I didn't want to kind of be pretentious about it. I just wanted the characters to fall in love with paintings, to fall in love with art, but not necessarily in a serious way. It was just more about discovery and using art in a playful way as well.
It's almost like a Soho that doesn't exist anymore, so it was very much capturing the essence of it that Steve knew or kind of perceived it to be.
And all of it could be yours. I forget about that boring shit you left behind. Just dream about who you want to be.
It was interesting, it was, and the way it was built and the way we filmed it was very secluded, but also didn't close the world of it. So, yeah, it was brilliant set design.
Working in the studio gave us the ability to stylize it and to play around with it, create something which doesn't look real, but hopefully captures some kind of essence of Soho. We wanted it to be dreamlike and artificial, and we wanted people to realise that this wasn't a real place. We wanted it to be fairly claustrophobic as well.
We had a lot of moments where we just had to be still and the camera moved around us. I do remember there being a few difficult moments where you just have to stay still. There was a moment where poor Silas Carson, he had to hold my lower back and then my neck, and I remember it just being a difficult day. It is a real journey, it goes everywhere, it's fun, it's sad, it's kind of whimsical. I could also relate to the fact that it was a young boy from the outskirts of London trying to find himself through the guise of different work, raconteuring and escorting and the art world and literature and poetry. It was just this very rich kind of material. I remember the Caravaggio exhibition was on in London before we started, and I went to it and I felt a certain way. I was tired and I hadn't eaten properly and it was hot in there, and I remember fainting a little bit and sitting down and calling Steve and being like, Steve, I've just fainted at the gallery. I don't know what's going on, but something's linking here, man. But yeah, I did. It was great.
Discovering the character, discovering who he is, and discovering like-minded people. To be inspired by that, I think, would be a good takeaway from it.